Welcome back, guys. Jay here. Welcome to the third and the final part of the combat system. So in this system, we're going to basically set up the shooting mechanism, and that's about it. And then in the next section, we're going to set up the ammo pickups, and then moving forward, we're going to set up the ammo indicators, health indicators, and things like that. So far, what we have is a aim camera, a combat camera that goes into that angle as soon as you right click, and then we also have an aiming system for the camera, so player also goes into an animation state. And then in this chapter, what we're going to do is when you press the left mouse button while you're in aiming mode, we're going to trigger the shooting animation. We're also going to shoot out a bullet prefab out of your gun, which means we got to set up a gun in this system in this chapter as well. So for this, guys, what I've realized is there's this really good asset that I always use. So let me just pull that up. So what I use for this is, let's see, go through my prefabs. I think I use this one, but let's see, this was, I think it was called, can't seem to find it. It was called Modern Guns Handgun. So was that this one? Yeah, this is the asset that I always go for this effect, because this asset, guys, comes with everything we need. It has a bunch of, you go to package content here, it's going to show you, it has a bunch of effects. It has a muzzle flash, the flash that goes off as soon as you shoot. It has a bullet prefab in it. It has pretty much everything we need. So yeah, there you go. It has a bullet, it has a handgun. Pretty much it's a great asset to have. It's only 8.2 MB. I'm going to open this up. I've also included it down below in the asset section of this video. So just feel free to download it from there as well. All right, guys, once you have that imported, you should have a new folder here called Nokobot. Basically, that's what it's called. But if you go inside of that, you have a bunch of prefabs. You have some effects here, muzzle flashes, and things like that. So we're going to basically use all of these to set up our shooting mechanism. So the first thing is I'm going to go to the player. I'm going to set up the gun. All right. So if you go to the player and expand the player's skeleton, go to the root here. I'm going to just drag this down a bit. Go to the pelvis, spine, different parts of the spines here in skeleton. Go to clavicle R, upper arm R, lower arm R, and then hand. So this right here is a hand, right? The reason that we expanded all of these in the skeleton section of the player is simply because we want to drag in the gun to the hand, so that when the player is doing its animations, various kinds of animations, the gun will still stick to that and rotate with the hand, which is ideally what we want, because if the gun is in a separate part of the body, that gun will be just floating while the hand is doing other things, right? So we want the gun to be sort of parented to the hand, right? So if you go to the prefabs folder while you have the hand open here, if you go to one of these guns, anything you like, guys, black, silver, I'm just going to go with black here. You have a little preview here. And then what we're going to do is just drag one of these. So I'm just going to drag the shooting version of these. I don't think there's a difference there. Just drag one of these in here, and then you have the gun over here. Awesome. So as you can see, it's obviously not in the right direction. So you kind of want to estimate how it's going to look like. So basically, the gun is obviously going to be turned to the direction of your hand. So just make an estimation here and just rotate it around. Kind of put it in the player's hands, like this. Kind of place it in here. Kind of make an estimation. Obviously, you can always change this up while the game is running and make a better estimate. But we kind of just want it to be kind of rough. And, just kind of like this. So feel free to adjust it later as well. But this is good enough for now, I reckon. So yeah, it's pretty good. I would even make this a bit bigger. That seems better, actually. Yeah, this looks good. All right, kind of just roughly, guys. Feel free to spend a bit more time on this and refine it. I think this is pretty good, but don't worry about just overlapping the hand, the fingers properly, because obviously in the shooting animation, it's going to align better with the gun, so you can always adjust it. But it's good. Now, if I actually run this, the hand is always going to be in the hand like that. See? Looks pretty good. And it's always going to move with my hand, which is also pretty good. I feel like the pistol is a bit too big, guys. So we made it a bit too big, so I'm going to drop down the size a bit. I think the original size was pretty good. Think about it. It's all right. There you go. Then when you do this, see how it's kind of weirdly rotated? So you can kind of adjust it until it looks perfect. So I'm just going to rotate this a bit like that. See how it looks now. There you go. Much better. Just a bit more American, like a little bit like this. Just move it up. It got out of the hand. So let's just move it back a little. Yeah, so it's a bit of running and sort of testing yourself and getting to, you know, the right place. I feel like it'll look better now. It's not bad. It's not the best. So I'm gonna remove my maximize here so I can look at it while the game is running. So another hack is to do this adjustment while the game is running, guys. So you can basically copy this these values after the game stops. So I'm just gonna align it exactly how I want it. There you go. That looks pretty good. Then kind of rotate it as well. That looks pretty good. So if I go to maximize again, that looks very nice. Just downward a little. So that looks good. And I might even make this a bit bigger. Okay. Yep, that looks pretty good to me now. All right, so pause it. Don't stop the game. Here's the hack. So while you were making changes, this is what the play actually looks like when you're aiming, by the way. So while you have the gun selected, click on these three dots here and click on copy component, all right, which basically copies position, rotation, scale changes that we did while the game is running. Because when we stop the game, it resets back to its normal positions. But if you click the player now, the gun now, click on the three dots and paste component values, it basically pastes all those component values that we copied during the game. All right, guys, what I realized was you should not use the shooting version of this asset pack because it comes with a script. Now, I don't want to do that. I would rather set this up myself so that I can show you how to do this. So instead of using a pre-made script that came with the pack. So if you're using this, like I have, what you can do is just go to the handgun, just expand it, and then there's a little script that came with the asset. I'm going to turn that off, guys. I don't want that because we're going to set up our own script, right? But if you were one of the lucky ones who use this one, I don't think it has a script, right? So if you were to do this now, there shouldn't be any effect when you shoot because I would rather set this up myself and show you guys how to do it than to use the script that came with the package, right? So what we're going to do now is we're going to create a new script, right? So go to scripts folder, create a right click, create, we'll call that shooting system, all right? So shooting system. So guys, what we need right now is basically the shooting script, which we have here. So let's just explain what's happening here. So in the shooting system, guys, it's quite straightforward. What we need first is a fire point. This is basically the point from where the bullet will be spawned, which is the gun or front of the gun, right? Second thing we need is a bullet prefab, a copy of a bullet or the 3D model of a bullet that will be spawned. The third thing we need is a muzzle flash. That muzzle flash is sort of that effect that goes off when you fire a gun. The fourth thing is a fire rate, the rate of fire in bullets per second. That's the amount of bullets that will be spawned every second. So for a pistol, that's going to be a rate of 1 bullet per second. So for a machine gun, for example, it will be much higher. You want to spawn like 4 or 5 or something like that. So feel free to experiment with that. The next thing is we have a next time to fire parameter, guys. So what this does is basically adds a timer between each fire so that you can slow down the amount of firing sessions that the player triggers. So player can't trigger too many at the same time. It's a pistol. After one shot, maybe 1 second delay, and then try again. So this right here, guys, is the shooting method that we have created. This is basically a timer that basically calculates the time between each fire so that you can spawn another bullet the next time press shoot again. So where do we call this? We're going to call this from the player controller. You're going to see that in just a second. So this basically calculates the last time you fired so that it checks that the next time to fire is greater than the last time to fire. So it's going to spawn another bullet. All right. And we add basically 1 second every time you shoot as well. Then you basically reset that and then shoot again. and then we fire a bullet. So we've separated that into a different method so that you can spawn a bullet in a separate method instead of putting it in the same timer. So in this method, guys, what we've done is we've spawned a new bullet basically using 3 parameters. Now let's walk through what happens here. Instantiate method in Unity needs 3 parameters. The first thing is a bullet prefab. That's a copy of the bullet, right? We're going to drag that in. The second thing it needs is the fire position, like where this should be spawned from. It's going to be the fire point dot position. We're going to drag that in just a bit as well. Third thing is the rotation of this bullet, right? We're going to say the fire point's rotation, right? Wherever the gun is pointed to, that's the rotation that the bullet is also going to have, right? This in combination with the instantiate, I've been talking a lot. From the top. Oh my god, my fucking throat. Alright guys, let's have a look at the shoot function over here. This method here is responsible for firing a bullet based on a timer. This right here, don't get too caught up on this, guys. This is basically how you run a timer with Unity. Basically, you use a time.time variable that comes with Unity, basically gets the current time, and we check if it is greater than the next time to fire, greater than or equal to, and then basically fires off a new bullet in the next time slot that's available, right? And then when you do that, basically fire a new bullet, we've separated that into a different method, right? Just get an understanding of this. And when you start coding, guys, it'll come to you, it'll make more sense. So feel free to just follow along, rewatch these videos as many times as you need to sort of grasp these concepts, right? When you start practicing though, that's where the true magic happens, right? Just understand the theory here. So when we fire a bullet, guys, this is what we're going to do. We're going to instantiate, which means we're going to spawn a new bullet. We're going to spawn a new muzzle prefab, the muzzle effect, and then we're going to basically apply a force to the bullet to move forward at a certain speed, right? So what we're doing is the instantiate method first. So let's have a look at how we can spawn a new bullet or spawn a new bullet or instantiate a new bullet. Instantiate is the word that Unity uses. So if you actually hover over instantiate, it tells you exactly what parameters you need to spawn something. First thing you need, guys, is a bullet prefab. All right, that's a copy of the bullet that we're going to drag in, 3D model of the bullet. All right, we'll be dragging that into Unity in just a bit. Second thing we need is where you should spawn this game object. Where is it spawning from? That is spawning from the fire point position, right? That's the front of the gun that we're going to drag it into just a bit as well. Third thing you need is a rotation of this bullet. The rotation is going to be wherever the fire point is looking at. It's going to be the front of the gun, guys. That's why I said fire point of position, fire point of rotation, right? So that's the bullet. So on the left-hand side, guys, that's the new bullet that we just spawned that came out of the instantiate function, all right? So this way we can do certain things to this bullet to move it forward or destroy it or things like that. The second thing that we're going to do is instantiate a muzzle flash. The muzzle flash is that effect. Same way that we do with the bullet, we instantiate a muzzle prefab, and then we do spawn it from the 5 points position, 5 points rotation, and then we get the new muzzle that was just spawned. Third thing we're going to do is we're going to get the rigid body that's part of the bullet. You guys already know how to do this. We basically get the component from, we get the rigid body component from the bullet that was just spawned, all right? And then basically what we're going to do is we're going to apply a velocity to this bullet. So we're not going to add a force to this bullet simply because when you add force, guys, it's physics. So it goes to a certain extent and it just falls down because obviously gravity applies to it and things like that. So instead, we're going to apply a massive velocity to it, massive speed to this, speed of 300, pretty fast, right? If you want, you can speed it up even more. You apply it to this bullet so it goes fast in the direction that's given, which is forward. And then optionally, we destroy the bullet after some time. Now, even though I say optional, it's recommended because you don't want a lot of bullets that were spawned that didn't destroy. So after a certain period of playing the game, there's going to be a lot of bullets that are sort of out there in the infinite space that have not been deleted, which is bad memory usage for your game. Your game is having a lot of spawned objects that are not being used, that are not being destroyed as well. So what we're doing here is we're destroying this bullet, right? Destroys the function that you can use for this in Unity after 10 seconds. So muzzle as well, we destroy it after 2 seconds. Right? That's up to you, the timing. But I think destroying the bullets after 10 seconds is fine. And then destroying the muzzle after 2 seconds is also fine. Right? So with that, guys, we can now fire bullets. However, we're not really calling shoot from anywhere. Right? We've got the function here. We're not really calling it from anywhere. So take a guess where we're going to call it from, because we're going to call it from the player controller, the third-person controller. So with that, with those changes, just hit save and then open up your third-person controller. So go over to the place that we have all these systems in place. We have the movement, we have the roll, we have the jump, we have the start aiming. We're going to create we don't actually need to create a new function for this simply because it's in another script, right? What we can do is expand update, and we can even add an if condition here. You know what? Just to keep things clean, we'll follow the same format. We'll say void shoot, right? And then what we're going to do is simply call this over here in the update, just like how we've been doing for the past few sessions. In shoot, however, we're going to say if input dot get mouse button. So do we want get mouse button or get mouse button down? Think of the answer in your head, right? It's get mouse button. Why? Because we are not programming a machine gun. If a machine gun would need you to hold on, like keep the mouse button held to keep firing, right? But it is a pistol. You only want it to shoot once, which means you get mouse button, right? Get mouse button, and then we simply say get mouse button. So aiming, get mouse button, and we say 0 because 0 is your left mouse button, 1 is your right mouse button, right? Just like how we did it in the aiming chapter, in the last chapter. So open that up. So this is how we know that the player is now clicking on shoot button, right? But we also want to make sure that the player is in aiming mode, or as the players could be just standing or in idle and just pressing, they're shooting the ground, right? So you want to make sure that we add another condition to that. We say, and is aiming. What do we call it again? Start aiming. Oh, we don't keep track of that. Now that's another thing that we got to do then. So we're going to say is aiming here. And then how do we keep track of this, guys? We're going to create a new boolean up here. And then how do we make this true? We're going to basically say true over here when the player is aiming. And we're going to make that false over here as well. All right, so what we're going to do here, guys, is simply say false, because that way we can keep track of if the player is aiming or not aiming, right? So in here, though, what we're going to do is simply call the shooting system and tell the shooting system to spawn a bullet, shoot it forward, right? So what we're going to do for that is, do you guys remember how we get components? So we get the components that are attached to this current game object. That's basically how we do this, right? So quite simply, all you have to do is simply say get component, and we're going to refer to the shooting system because that's the system that we want to get access to. All right. Then open up bracket, close bracket. If you guys remember the format, simply say dot, and we got to say shoot. Open bracket, close bracket, semicolon. What we just did there was we're referring to the other components in this game object, the same game object, and we're going to refer to the shooting script that's attached to the game object, and we're going to call shoot function. What are we calling? This function over here. All right, that's it. So with this, guys, if you go back to Unity now, let it compile, you're going to attach the shooting system script to the player. Go to the player. The right-hand side, if you scroll down, this is basically a third-person controller, but we need to add the new shooting system as well. There you go. Once done, you have a bunch of these slots that we need to fill. Let's do that. So the first thing is we need a fire point for the gun, right? So we're going to click our gun here, and just anywhere within this gun is fine. I'm just going to select this area. Barrel location, where is that? Oh, we already have a location for that. Perfect. We can just use this because all I wanted was a location to spawn the bullet from. This is perfect. The gun comes with it. So we'll use this. So go to play again. Scroll down, the fire point will be barrel location, right? If you use another gun, guys, if you're not using the same gun model as me, just quite simply, all you had to do is right click the gun, go to create empty, and then position that to the front of the gun. That's it. So that's basically where the bullet is going to spawn from. Next thing is we need a bullet prefab. So if you click this little dot here, You should already have a bunch of bullets that sort of came with this model, with this pack. So simply search for bullet. I think a couple should show up. If you go to the assets tab here, right? Assets tab, search for bullets. You have a bunch of bullets here that came with this. So I'm going to go ahead with this guy. I don't think there's a difference between these two. Just go with, oh yeah, prefabs. So like prefab bullet. And then muzzle flash, same thing. There should be a muzzle prefab here in the assets tab. There we go, muzzle flash. And then fire rate is 1. That's it, guys. So let's test this out. See what we see. Nice, look at that. It's now spawning muzzle flash and also spawning a bullet. So is it spawning a bullet? How do we know? Let's, yeah, there you go. A couple of bullets are spawned here. And as you can see, they get destroyed as well after a little while. And when I fire again, you can see another bullet firing up on the hierarchy, and they go away after a little while. After 2 seconds, after 2 seconds, the muzzle flash goes away. After 10 seconds, the bullets go away, and you can always adjust that time period. All right, guys. Last thing that we need to sell this effect is to call our shooting animation, which we already have set up in the second chapter of this combat system. So all we need is for this to call the shoot trigger. That's it, and that should already work. So how do we do that, guys? Go back to the third-person controller. Where we call shoot here, we're going to simply do animator, in the third-person controller, by the way, animator.set trigger, within brackets. How do we do that? Shoot is the name of the parameter we added. Guys, I made a mistake here. I'm not going to lie. You got to use get button down here. Get mouse button down will give you the frame that this button was pressed, right? So it's not get button, get mouse button, it's get mouse button down. That's going to give you that. All right, guys, with that, let's test that out. And we should have the animation now fully working. That looks pretty good to me. Awesome, guys. So with that, that's the end of the combat system. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to set up some ammo that you can pick up. And these are ammo that will be floating around the game. And we'll be setting up some triggers to pick them up. And after that, we're going to go into some UI. We're going to display these ammo counts and things like that on screen. That's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video.